Alright, I'm going to try to do this without notes, mostly. But today I want to talk about the conversion period and some of the heroes of the ancient Nordic world. So the conversion period roughly started in 496 and it went into 1066. So you're looking at a period of about 600 years. A little bit more, a little bit less, and of course there were people that held Norse beliefs for hundreds of years afterwards. It wasn't completely stamped out until probably the 1600s in all actuality. So the first point you can look at is the continental Germanic tribe, which would be the Franks. Their leader, Clovis, in 496, before a battle, decided to pray to the Christian God to see if he could win. And when he won, he decided to convert. He was a staunch pagan before, and it just shows the fluidity of the Nordic culture or the Germanic culture, as he was able to freely pray towards either Odin or to Christian God. So in 496 he converts. Now his cousin, Ragnar, didn't convert, and of course was still pagan, and half of Clovis' army left and went to Ragnar. Now there's a bunch of battles between them, and Ragnar eventually is killed, but it just shows the pervasiveness of the pagan ideology in that time period. But Clovis, being the leader of the Franks and solidifying his empire after taking out his cousin, shows that it was a top-down, trickle-down thing where the elite took on the new religion, and then the people within their culture started to accept it. So fast forward a few hundred years to Charlemagne. And Charlemagne, his own grandfather was Charles Martel after the hammer. Charlemagne decided he wanted to be a true king of the Bible and therefore would convert others. So he started waging wars on any of the people that presented any type of challenge to his hegemony. One of these was the Frisians, Radbod the Strong. Radbod. And Radbod was a Frisian leader. Frisia, modern-day Frisia, is on the coast of the Netherlands and Germany, maybe a little bit up into Denmark. And these were sea people, staunchly pagan, and Radbod almost converted when he was losing his war. But then he was found out that baptism would preclude him from going to see his ancestors. So he said he would rather burn in hell with his ancestors than go to heaven and be taken away from them. Now, I wanted to bring these significant people up because everybody knows about Ragnar, and the sons of Ragnar are the Boneless and Bjorn Ironsides, but very few people know about these other heathen heroes. So we have Radbod, who decided to be put to death because he would rather spend an eternity in hell. So when he lost his war against Charlemagne, he was put to death. Now, fast forward a little bit, and we go to the Saxon Wars. Now, Charlemagne fought the Saxon Wars for 30 plus years. The main leader of the Saxon army was somebody by the name of Witikund. And Witikund was a staunch pagan. He did not want the influences. He wanted to keep his national traditions, his natural beliefs. So he fought with Charlemagne for years and years and years. And Charlemagne actually ordered an edict against the Saxons. I forget the name, it's a long Latin name, but that any Saxon who refused, or any Germanic who refused to be baptized, would be put to death. And this culminated in a battle where Charlemagne took 4,500 prisoners in Verdun. And this is in 782, I believe. Yes, 782. And Charlemagne put them all to death because they refused to convert. They refused to be baptized. After this, and seeing the way the war was going, Witikund allowed himself to be baptized, keeping his beliefs, but allowed himself to be baptized to stop the destruction of his people. After the baptismal period, the Westphalians, the Eastphalians, and a couple other tribes continued to rise up in successive insurrections or revolutions against Charlemagne, and that finally ended in 804. And under the edicts against the Saxons, and each successive battle in 804, Charlemagne declared all the traditions and national concept of the people in Northern Europe, Saxons, illegal. So, and he then, by destroying their elite, by killing off all their elite and nobles, he has assimilated them into the Frankish world. Now you might ask, what does this have to do with Norse period? Well, if you look at those numbers, when did the raid in Lindisfarne happen? 790s. The people in Scandinavia were very much aware what Charlemagne was doing. And I can't remember the name of the ring fort, but there was a ring fort in, I think, northern Germany now, but it would have been the edge where the Saxons and the Danes got together, where their border was. And the Danes put up this fort, and they manned it. But not only did they man it with Danes, but any of the Saxons that had fled, also Norwegians, Swedes, Icelanders, I guess the people that would have come from those places, because those countries were not, they were abstracts at that point. They were not a contextual landmass. So it is shown that in response to Charlemagne's forcefully converting the Saxons, that the rest of the heathen world got together to prevent it. So you have attack on Lindisfarne. The attack on Lindisfarne, of course, why wouldn't they attack that? They now knew the riches that were presented. You know, they knew the riches the Christians had, and they knew that they could go and take a monastery and start to invade England. So we have to realize that it was in the collective conscience of the people to understand that there was a ethnic and cultural struggle going on, and that precipitated any of the attacks of the Viking period. No longer could they freely trade with their neighbors in Northern Europe. The Frisians and the Saxons, the Westphalians, the Eastphalians, they had all been forcibly converted. And by taking away their avenues for trade, what other option do a people have besides battle? Now, I talked about Radbod and Videkund, two heroes of the heathen world. Now I'll talk about another one, Roald the Strong, who has a similar legend. Roald the Strong was a sea king, a minor sea king, but when Norway was Christianizing, he refused to be baptized. And because he refused to be baptized, I believe it was St. Olaf, found him and told him, you must be converted. He refused to convert, so they opened his mouth, put a pipe in it, put a snake in the pipe, and pushed the snake down the pipe with a hot poker. And that was the way he died. But he died strong, sturdy, and convicted in his beliefs. So it's just interesting to look at the conversion period and the effects it had on the northern world around it. It's just amusing. For me, I don't really have anything behind it except for to let others know that before the attacks of the Vikings, before the raids of the Vikings, there was a very real threat. We look at the Viking raids as through the glass of, or the filter of, Anglo-Saxon England. But what we don't realize is the continental Germanics had been recently forcefully converted by Charlemagne, and Charlemagne was on the doorstep of the Danes, on the doorstep of the Sea People, after already destroying the national concepts of two other Sea Peoples. Now, and then something to go back even further is the concepts of the Swabians and their belief structure, and the fact that their belief system is almost identical 400 years prior to what you could find in Denmark at the conversion period. Just some things to think about. Hope I wasn't rambling too much. A lot of knowledge there, dates, and when you use the dates, you have to refer a little bit to notes, and that kind of takes me off topic.